Hi, welcome to a new video. This time I take you on a day trip to Paris, the capital of France. If you want to see more city traveler videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. The most romantic city in Europe. Paris seems to be the symbolic of romance, but also for style, coast, traditions, and culinary excellence. The city's reputation acts as a magnet for travelers, couples in love, artists, and people pursuing their dreams. It makes Paris one of the most exciting cities in the world. There are so many places to see in Paris. A tip, however, the sites are spaced out, so make sure you have a metro pass. Eiffel Tower. Let's start with one of the most iconic sites of Paris, the Eiffel Tower. This is a site you cannot and will not miss when you visit Paris. It was built in 1889 for the World's Fair on behalf of Alexandre Gustave Eiffel. The tower stands on the Champ de Mars and until 2004 was the tallest structure in the country, with a height of 324 meters. Louvre. It is the world's largest and most visited museum. This museum was once a medieval fort before it became a gallery in the 18th century for artists to scholars who came to study the works of old artists. Today, it is a museum you could spend weeks wandering around. Notre Dame. After the Eiffel Tower, Paris' Notre Dame is the city's most famous landmark. It is without a doubt the most famous and most photographed Gothic monument in the world. Construction of the cathedral was started in 1163 and it took some 200 years to complete. Notre Dame is a magnificent structure with unprecedented details for the time. Palace of Versailles. The Palace of Versailles is one of the largest palaces in the world and should not be missing from your to-do list for Paris. In the 17th century, this was still a small hunting lodge. It was Louis XIV who converted the hunting lodge into one of the largest and most extravagant palaces in the world. Arc de Triomphe. The Arc de Triomphe is located on a large traffic circle where all the streets converge. One of the most iconic sites of Paris can be found on the Champs-Élysées, the Arc de Triomphe. It was commissioned by Napoleon to honor the Grande Armée. The arch is the largest of its kind. It's decorated with several detailed sculptures. Seine. The Seine flows right through Paris and is most important in the city's streetscape. You will find centuries-old bridges that are attractively lit at night. There are cafes, bars, and live music on the quay side, and you can sit quietly and enjoy the life of Paris. One of the best ways to discover the city of Paris is via the Seine. A cruise on the river gives a unique view of the city. Hôtel des Invalides. One of the most beautiful buildings in Paris is the Hôtel des Invalides. In terms of attention, it is underperforming Notre Dame or Versailles, but that is not entirely justified. In fact, Hôtel des Invalides is one of the most beautiful buildings in the world and an absolute must-see. It was Louis XIV who had the impressive Hôtel des Invalides built in 1670 to accommodate sick war veterans. The Sacré-Cœur. One of the most beautifully situated is the Sacré-Cœur. This basilica towers high above the city in the Montmartre district. The basilica owes its fame to its elegant domes and white color. In addition, the interior of the basilica is a delight to the eye. The ceilings glisten with the largest mosaic in France, showing Jesus rising next to the Virgin Maria and Jeanne d'Arc. Champs-Élysées. The Champs-Élysées is the famous street in Paris. It is the place to be for die-hard shoppers. You will find the best restaurants, the trendiest bars, the most expensive cars, and sightseeing attractions, such as the Arc de Triomphe. The street may not be very special, but there is all kinds of things to see that make it an interesting place. Admire the stained glass windows in Sainte-Chapelle. If you visit Notre Dame, you can immediately visit the Sainte-Chapelle, which is about 700 meters away. Around the corner is in the magnificent complex of the Palais de la Cité. The royal chapel is not large, but the interior is impressive. The chapel was built in 10 years and was finished in 1248. Visit the largest square in Paris, Place de la Concorde. One of the most special places in Paris is the Place de la Concorde. This is the largest square in the city and was built in 1755. The square has had different names and forms. In the early years, the square was called Place Louis XV, named after the king, including a statue of the king. Visit the most famous opera house in the world, Palais Garnier. The Opera Garnier was designed in 1861 by architect Charles Garnier on behalf of Napoleon III, a nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte. The pillars and balconies are finished in gold leaf. The ceiling is stylishly painted, and the grand foyer and grand staircase are impressive. Explore the catacombs. In the 18th century, Paris had a serious problem with housing the deceased. Paris was growing so fast that it could no longer dispose of the corpses, resulting in corpses in the Seine and spread of foul odors. Additional cemetery space was urgently needed. The answer was the network of limestone mines dating back to the Middle Ages. You can visit the catacombs where you'll literally walk past the bones. Audio guides and real guides are available. A guide is definitely recommended as they can tell more about this special place. Go to the Petit Palais and Grand Palais. Close to the Louvre and Place de la Concorde are both Petit Palais and Grand Palais, both of impressive buildings that today serve as museums, one of many in Paris. Relax in Jardin des Tuileries. Between the Place de la Concorde and the Louvre is the Jardin des Tuileries, the garden of the former Tuileries Palace. The word Tuileries means tile makers, and square owes its special name because it was built on the site of former tile factories. The garden and the palace were built by order of Queen Catherine de' Medici in 1553. Explore Place des Vosges. Did you know that Place des Vosges was the first square in Paris? It dates back to 1605. It is a beautiful square, but what really impresses is the red houses surrounding the square. It is one of the most beautiful squares in Paris, and the square is square with the houses built around it. It is within walking distance of Notre Dame, so it is great to combine. Stroll through Montmartre. Montmartre is one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Paris. Many people still experience the authentic Paris here, to the extent that that is possible in a city that hosts 30 million travelers annually. It is a great neighborhood to spend a day. The characteristic neighborhood is characterized by cobblestone streets, colorful houses, cozy bars and restaurants, and cute houses. Montmartre was really put on the map when Monet, Toulouse, Lautrec, Renoir, Pissarro, Van Gogh, and Modigliani came to live and work in the neighborhood. Pont Neuf. Pont Neuf is the oldest stone bridge in Paris, dating back to 1578. The bridge hangs over the Seine and consists of two parts. The first part has 7 arches up to a small island. The second part consists of 5 arches. It was Henry IV who commissioned the construction of the bridge. The bridge is beautifully lit at night and is a popular stop for many tourists. It is a beautiful place where you can also have great food nearby. Visit Gare d'Orsay. Gare d'Orsay is one of the most beautiful buildings in Paris. It was originally a train station used for train traffic from 1900 to 1939. The building sits on the banks of the Seine, and it must have been magnificent to get off the train here. Unfortunately, the building did not serve as a station for long. Gare d'Orsay became dilapidated and even stood empty until the plan arose to turn it into a museum. It soon turned into one of the largest art museums in the world. Paris is a huge city, and there are countless sights and things to do. For me, one of my favorite cities. I hope you gained a lot of information again about this city trip. If you liked this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next trip.